Cord.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Oh, this is Amy. I couldn't get it to load on my laptop, so I had to dial in on my phone.
Okay. So Amy,
Oh, that's great. You're recording it so I could watch it.
yeah, because I'm going to be sharing my screen. So let me make sure. I want to check you off. So, Amy Dalton.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure, check you off here. I just keep notes of who joins us, and all right. So we have, this is Nursing 320, Healthcare Systems and Quality Outcomes Overview Conference. So we have Ashley, we have Brian, Jacqueline or Jacqueline?
It's Jacqueline. It's just spelled in French. That's why it has a K.
Okay.
Mhm.
Shauna, and then on the phone, we have Amy. Okay. All right. So as you'll see, you can see my screen. Everybody can see my screen except Amy, who is on the phone. Okay. So what you'll see is the Canvas homepage, and I know even though this says YL, I do have representation from each cohort, but each cohort, your classes look the same. So again, I know I'm Dr. Sheila Mady, and I am in Montana. I teach online, and I know most of you I've had before, and some names are not familiar to me. But I've been with EagleGate for almost 2 years now. Been a nurse educator since 2004, and then have been in nursing since 1993. I've done quite a bit of critical care, some flight nursing, some neonatal intensive care, adult critical care. I've done some oncology, some med surg, some oh my goodness, I lose my thoughts. See what happens after 50. I've done some child adolescent psychiatry. So I've been around the block a little bit, but I love teaching online. I love the aspect of student success, and so this is one venue that we can do on student success. And so we're going to talk about healthcare systems and quality outcomes. So along the way, I would ask you guys, if I'm talking and you need to ask a question, just blurt it out. Sometimes I get to talking and then I forget to ask questions. And so if I'm talking and you have a question, please stop me. Yell at me, let me know so we can go back. Of course, this is going to be a pretty quick rundown, but I want you to have the opportunity to ask questions because this is a fast-moving 8-week course. So, any questions thus far? Okay. None that I can read or hear. So this first page is, of course, your syllabus, and this is pretty much our contract between each other. And so you can see my name, my office hours. Now, we do post office hours, but I will ask you, if you are working on absolutely anything and you have a question, why don't you text me? Feel free to text me. If I text you back, that means I'm up. If I don't text you, that means I'm in bed. But I do work at all hours. My husband works night shift in the ER, so I find myself up at night just so I can take a little snooze in the morning with him, and then I'm up during the day. So, and as you know, as you get older, you don't require as much sleep. So don't worry about reaching out and waking me up. If I'm awake, I definitely will text you back. And if not, I'll text you back as soon as I see your message. I would just ask that you let me know who you are so I can address you by name. So right here's my phone number, my email. So a little bit about course description. I'm pretty sure you guys have looked at your syllabus and you're kind of aware and prepared of what's expected of you within these next 8 weeks. So I'm not going to go over a lot of things. One thing that I know we implemented last semester was and sorry for my scrolling if I make you nauseous, would be your The 80-20 rule on your plagiarism. Oh, it's right here. So it's the 80-20 rule. And so I would just ask that you make sure and follow that because I would hate to take points off for that. So any questions from anybody on the 80-20 rule or how to figure out your 20%? Let me look and make sure I'm not missing Brian. Okay. So the biggest outcome with the 80-20 rule is just to make sure that it's your work, that we want to read your work. And so really try hard to paraphrase and not use quotations all the time. Because if you do use quotations, we have to limit you to 20% or less within your discussions and within your written assignments. Okay. So if we go, let me move this over. So next thing I want to talk about is your announcements. Now this section here, we ask that you look at every day. It's just a quick review, or not a review, but it's just a quick check of, hey, is there anything new that I need to be on the lookout for? And so announcements, anything that's new happening within Eaglegate that we need to, instead of sending individual emails, we'll put on the announcements. So this week I've put a netiquette reminder, which is just to, if you click in here, it's just a quick reminder to reply to your classmates or faculty by name. Okay. And it's found within your student handbook rules. And then that way, if you are addressing each other by name, it just adds more respect to it. So I would just ask you to make sure and do that. But within your announcements, this is where you'll find very important information about your class, where you'll find your welcome announcements. I put those in every week to welcome you. Really, this area is not for questions, but I'll guide you in the area in order to ask questions. So make sure that you check your announcements daily. If we move on down, chat-wise, I don't really use chat. I rather visit on the phone or text message. Conferences, this is where you might find like a Big Blue conference, which can be found in here. And usually when we set that up, there's a link. Personally for me, my personal preference is a GoToMeeting because it is user-friendly and I can share my screen. Whereas within this new conferences, I can't share my screen. So you'll see that I don't use it very much, but if I have to, I definitely will. Next would be your discussions. Now you're seeing my view, not the student view. So I'm not going to dive into these too much, but you can see here where the Eaglegate Cafe. So make sure that you introduce yourself and then so I can welcome you to the class. And then questions to the instructor. So if you have any specific questions, this would be a great area to do that in, just because you may have the same question as somebody else. And so then we can answer all those questions. And then each week, I'll pin your discussion. So this week we just have 2 discussions to do. And remember your due dates for those. So your initial response is due by Wednesday at 11:59. And then your peer responses, at least 2 of them, are due on a different day by Sunday at 11:59 p.m. So just remember about your attendance. And then as we move down, I want to get into modules. And this is where you will find your assignments and when they are due. So a little bit about Canvas orientation, if you want to, just a quick update on that. And then any helpful student videos here. Let me check over here and see if Brian has any questions. Okay. Any questions so far by anybody?
No, ma'am.
Okay, before we dive into our main assignments. Here would be how you can also access questions to your instructor. Here is where you have your APA template and sample and training PowerPoint. So I'm going to click on here for you for a minute because this is a Of course, we have a sample paper, but let's look at this template because you can download and use this template when you start writing your papers, okay? So a lot of students use this template because it has your running head, and then of course your running head's going to change according to the title of your paper. But it's got your page number, it's got the margins already set, and then you just pretty much fill in the blanks. So you're going to put your title here, and then your name, and then Eagle Gate College, and this is for nursing, well, 300, but you're going to put your nursing 320 and then the name. Okay. And then as you move down, you'll see your running head here, your page number, your title, and then it just talks about, your introduction right here, and then preparing to write it just kind of guides you here. Now, these are all level 1 headings, which is something you should be exhibiting within your papers at this stage of the game because you are almost done. And so we will see this more in use when I show you examples. Okay, so I would just take a look at that if you need a template or a quick refresher. And then, of course, here's some videos on APA formatting as well. So let's go back to modules and dive in. So this week, you can see we've got checklist, objectives, we've got your reading assignment. Here's where you find your lecture. Now here's where you do your Eagle Gate Cafe or your introduction. So make sure you get those done this week. And then here's your model discussion 1 and discussion 2. You've got your due dates here. So those are due by January 13th, which is Sunday. But again, make sure that your initial response is done by Wednesday at 11:59 p.m. Module 2 is the same, your objectives, your assignment, your lecture. Now let's dive into your Module 2 assignment. So that is due January 20th. So I'm just going to click in here, and this is what you'll see. And so this first assignment is worth 200 points or 20% of your course grade. And this is where we're going to examine a healthcare organization structure and the role of nursing within that organization. And again, this is due Sunday of week 2, which is this week. You've got your course objectives. You've got your instructions. The biggest thing I want you to look at here would be your grading rubric. So when you have your grading rubric and you've got certain areas that you're going to be graded in, so the first part would be your introduction. And what's included in that? Well, we need the type of organization identified. Is it a hospital? Is it a long-term care? Is it a primary care? And then your reason for choosing this organization. So there's 2 different things here. So let me go back here and make sure we're all okay. Anybody have any questions so far? So far, so good?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So it looks like somebody joined us. Trevor. Hi, Trevor. So, Trevor, what we're doing now is we're just going over Module 2 assignment, which is your first one, which is due Sunday, January 20th? So, Sunday of week 2. Okay, so let me push this back. So what we're looking at now is your grading rubric. So make sure that you look at your grading rubric so you know that you're not going to miss something. So with that being said, I want to minimize this screen over here because I want to bring an example up. And so I'm hoping that you can see this comparison side by side. And so this is an example, and I can send this out. But this student, here's your running head. Make sure that your paper looks like this, because you're all going to be graded on your APA formatting, of course. And so your running head, make sure it's got the running and the H is lowercase on the head, and then your condensed title is all in uppercase. Okay. Now, this student chose to do a structural organization and role of nursing in specialized medical clinic, specifically the OB clinic, OBGYN clinic. Okay, so you can see here where they've talked about their type of organization and reason for choosing. So then if we move down, the second area on the grading rubric would be the mission and vision. So you can see here where they have put their level 1 heading according to each area that they're being graded on. And this really is proper APA format. So you guys are all writing within your level 1 heading. Everything is a level 1 heading. So don't worry about level 2, level 3, anything. So your level 1 headings are going to be each area of the grading rubric that you're going to be graded on. And they are centered, bolded, and upper and lower cased. Okay. So the next one would be your mission. So you can see where this student put the mission. They also added the strategic plan, which would be let's see, strategic plan. Which would be more down on your, is this module 2? Yep. Okay.
You passed it up. Yeah.
Did I pass it up? I know it's there.
It's there.
Is it? Okay. Okay. So the biggest thing here is just your level 1 headings. What it does is it guides people that are grading your paper. And so if you can put a level 1 heading, that way it's going to help you so you don't forget an important part of your paper, but it's also going to help me drive my eyes right to where you want me to see. So I don't have to fumble through and try to find it. So it really, really is really nice when you have your level 1 headings. So here would be the mission, strategic plan. So then they talk about objectives, your organizational structure. So you've got organizational structure and flow of communication right here. Okay. So you can see where they're talking about their organizational structure, their flow of command. An example would be flows from the top to the bottom. Organizational structure, define that, and then they define more about their OBGYN clinic that they're talking about. So any questions about this so far?
Nope.
Okay.
No.
Okay. So then here would be their picture of their organizational structure or their organizational chart. So this student added a picture, which is completely fine. But if you add a picture, make sure you explain what your picture means. Okay. And then you have to make sure and reference that picture of where you got it, or you can make your own picture up. It's just like hierarchical type structure. So you've got who's at the top, who's underneath them, and then that pans out to see who's underneath them and things like that. Okay. Next would be shared governance model. So here we would have nursing and shared governance. So everything here is captured under here. Okay. Make sure that you talk about advantages and or disadvantages, or if there's no shared governance, the decision to not use this model is explained. So make sure that you explain why there is not a shared governance, because if I don't see it, it means you didn't address it, and then you won't get your points for that. And so if you can see, each area is worth 20 points. So if you don't have anything written in that area, that's 20 points off, and that's a lot. Okay. The next on the grading rubric would be the pattern of nursing care. So here is the pattern of nursing care delivery, and that's all explained there. And then lastly would be your summarization. And here is where the biggest thing here is summarize your findings, in a couple sentences. But the other thing is make sure that you talk about, is this organization empowering to nurses? Okay. And make sure, and I look for that sentence. And so this student says, I don't believe that this clinical setting in the OBGYN department is empowering to nurses. And so they talk about why. And that's okay. If it's not empowering, that's fine. You're not going to be marked off if it's not empowering, but make sure that you do answer that. Okay. And then lastly would be the reference page. Okay. So then this paper needs to be 3 to 5 pages in length. Now this does not include the title page or the reference page. So then what I would do is I would go back to the beginning and I would say, okay, so here's page 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 pages, it needs to be at least 3 to 5. Perfect. Okay. With a minimum of 2 scholarly references. So let's look at references here. We've got a .edu, which is scholarly, and we've got a Annals of Family Medicine, which is scholarly. Now, this student here utilizes the lecture. Now, you've known before that this is not a scholarly reference, the lectures. Now, you can put it here because she already has 2 other scholarly references, so I'm not going to mark down for that. Okay. I would have to look at this one specifically to see where this came from because it's a sample, so I'm not sure if it's a scholarly or not. I would have to look at that. But it's okay if it isn't because they've got 2 down here. Okay. And then we look at APA formatting. So make sure that you have your running head. Make sure that you've got your titles. Make sure that you've got your page numbers. So your paper should look like this paper. Make sure you have your running head that looks like this. Now, in the past, I've gotten some really very vivid and very colorful title pages. But they shouldn't be. They just need your running head. There's no, the whole paper is Times New Roman 12 font. So there's no bolding. There's no different colors. There's no flowers, hearts, things like that. So make sure that your title page looks exactly like the sample page that you get from EagleGate. Excuse me. And then the new thing that's added would be your 80-20 rule. And so what we do is we want to make sure, again, that you don't utilize a lot of quotes, that the authors are not writing your paper, that you actually are writing your paper. Okay. And then we use rules of grammar, spelling, word usage. Now, this is where I'm going to bring everybody back just to make sure if I don't have any questions. Oh, we've got Teresa. Hi, Teresa. She's joining us.
Hello.
So with your rules of grammar, I know that you guys were each sent an email where you could download Grammarly. It's free. So if you've not downloaded Grammarly, make sure that you do and utilize it when you write papers because it'll underline misspelled words. It'll underline, incomplete sentences. If there's a comma where it shouldn't be. So it really helps you write good papers. So I would ask that you find that email and that you download Grammarly. And once you download it, you'll be able to use it every time you utilize Canvas. So within your discussions and within your assignments. So make sure that you do that. Okay. So any questions with Module 2 before we move on to the next assignment? Any questions at all? Okay. Now this can be your own healthcare organization, okay? And then the role of nursing within an organ. Yes?
I have a question.
Yes, Shauna.
If you are doing your own organization, like if I do my facility where I work, how would you, I can't think of the word, use the organizational chart from my work? How would you reference that?
Well, you're just going to, wherever you got it from, you're going to reference your organization. And I know that we say here that we really try to stay away from direct names of your organization. Okay. Do not provide identifying information such as name. Sometimes we can't do that though. If we're utilizing, or if you want to, I don't know, I guess you could give it a fake name, organization. I don't know how else you could give it a fake name, but if you do that, just so we're not, being here in Montana, I have nothing to compare it to, but if your paper got out and your organization saw what you wrote about it, it might not be kosher to do that, if that makes sense. So
yeah.
if you're getting your organizational chart from the people you work with or from the policy manual or whatever whatever they give you, then go ahead and utilize that. You just have to reference that somehow.
Okay.
I hope that makes sense, Shauna.
It does. And as it gets closer, I'll probably message you more on that. But
yeah, please do. Please do. And again, if you're messaging me and I don't get back with you within a good 5 or 6 hours, let me know. Say, hey, did you get my message? Because sometimes I think I have adult ADD after I've turned 50, or my mind just wanders. And so you need to bring me back to reality and just let me know. Say, hey, did you get my email or my text? And, can you answer me? Something like that. Okay.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So any other questions with Module 2 assignment before we move on to Module 4 assignment? Okay. All right. So let's go back to modules because this is where we would find our assignments. So in week 3, we just have 2 discussion questions. Week 4, we have 2 discussion questions, but now we have another assignment, which is due February 3rd. It's a Sunday, Super Bowl Sunday, actually. So this is where we're going to explore a national healthcare quality initiative. Okay. And if you click on here again, this is worth 200 points. Let me make this a little bit bigger before I give you an example. So this is where we want you to explore a healthcare quality initiative at the national level. And you can find these within your week 3 and week 4 lectures. It guides you right here. Okay. So there's a lot of resources within your week 3 and week 4 lecture. Go ahead and read through them and find one that you're passionate about that you want to write about. Because really, if you're just looking at one and you saying, oh, well, that sounds good, but it's not real interesting to you, it's going to be hard to write about it. So really spend some time, even though I know this is not due until week 4, spend some time looking at the initiatives so you can make a decision about what you want to write on. So then we look at the instructions again. So we're going to investigate and thoroughly describe a national healthcare quality initiative. And this thoroughly right here is very, very useful. Okay, that's a tip. Make sure it's described very well. Okay. So now let's look at our grading rubric, and I'm going to minimize this so I can bring in an example. So let me move this over here. Okay. So again, this is the usual template. So you've got your running head, you've got your summary or your shortened version of your title, but it's all in caps. And then you've got your page number here. Your title page has your title, has who you're writing for, the Eagle Gate College, and has your course number. So it does not have my name on it. It does not have a date. Now your name, of course, is going to be in here. I removed the student name on this paper, so for FERPA and HIPAA, I don't want to violate, but your name would be in here. Okay. Then as we move on, you can see your running head right here, your title or your page number. Now you've got your title. Now you've got your introduction, which is a level 1 heading, which should be centered and bolded. And you can see here the introduction. So this is area 1 for 25 to 23 points. Now within this introduction, we want you to identify your quality initiative. So let's see if we can find it. Home Health Quality Initiative. So they're right there. They've captured that one. How to locate the information. So it talks about the CMS, talks about OASIS. As I learn more, looking into the Centers for Medicare Medicaid at their home website. So that tells me where they located it. And then the reason talks about the reason there, because this has placed an additional qualification on organizations. So they've captured everything within this one paragraph. So then if we were to move down, let's look at mission and goals of the initiative. Oh, we've got mission and goals. You see how easy it is when you have your level 1 headings, because it just makes it so much easier to grade, and it lets you know that you're not forgetting something. So then here it talks about the mission. It talks about the goals: provide safe, effective, patient-centered care. Here are the goal of CMS. Next would be population of focus. That's correct. So you've got population of focus, and then it talks about the population right here. So the biggest part of this paper, which is worth 80 points, is your plan, do, study, act cycle. And this is found within week 4 lecture. It goes in depth about your plan, do, study, act cycle. And sometimes students have reached out to other resources to kind of give them a visual of what this is about. And so here you've got your level 1 heading, but now they've taken it even further and they've done a level 2 heading, which they broke each part of this plan, do, study, act cycle up. And so a level 2 heading, of course, would look exactly like this, flush left. So under the plan, let's see it. I have to do 4 different things under the plan. I have to describe the measure and scholarly evidence, what data is presented to show a gap between current practice and best practice, what are the proposed quality improvement outcomes, and then how does the initiative plan to make a difference in healthcare quality. Okay, so this should be, I should be able to find all those answers within this area under the plan. Okay, next would be the do. So right here we've got do, and it looks like we've only got one area here. What are the actions being taken by this initiative, and what has been done so far? So two items under here, which I should be able to read within this do section. So then next would be the study. As we move down here to C, you want to talk about how are or how will the outcomes be measured and utilized to refine the initiative, and then who oversees or assesses the actions of this initiative. And so a lot is the Medicare.gov website, a lot of OASIS. So you should be able to, I should be able to, question? Nothing? Okay. And then the last part of this would be the act. And so describe any refinement of the initiative based on the data that you've accumulated, and then describe the outcomes achieved so far as a result of this initiative. Okay, so that's all written under the act area. And then lastly, they're going to summarize. So here's your level 1 heading, which is centered and bolded. And we want you to summarize the initiative and also include a statement of how nurses can be involved. So there's 2 things here. And sometimes students forget to talk about how nurses can be involved in this initiative. Okay. So those are the 2 things that I'm going to look for here. Okay. Here, every nurse owes it to their patients to find these ways to improve and find ways to implement them across the board for all patients to standardize care. Okay. And then lastly would be your references. Make sure that they're in APA format, which are alphabetized, dated, things like that. So then this paper needs to be at least 3 to 5 pages. It does not include the title or reference page. So let's count. Where are we at? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.5 pages, which is awesome, with a minimum of 2 scholarly resources. Well, let me take a look. So .gov, this is scholarly. CMS.gov is scholarly. .gov is scholarly. So they've met their criteria on their scholarly resources. And then lastly would be your APA formatting. And then again, the 80-20 rule. And then we've got your rules of grammar, which again, download Grammarly, and that way that'll help you stay within that proper grammar. Okay. So questions about Module 4 assignment, exploring national healthcare quality initiatives. Okay. I would ask that you start looking now and investigating within weeks 3 and weeks 4 lecture. Okay. I think, if I'm correct, let's go to discussions, because I'm pretty sure that we ask you within your discussion. So give me a second here. These have not been pinned yet, but now let's look at Module 3, Discussion 1. Investigate one of the organizations presented in this week's lecture. Describe the organization, provide an example, impacted. This will help you with your Module 4 assignment. Okay. Let's look at Discussion 2. Quality nursing care. Okay. Let's go look at Discussion 4. Because I want to be able to, kill the bird with one stone instead of two. This would be your 6 aims, current best practice. Let's look at Module 4, Discussion 2. Ooh, quality initiatives. So this is where we ask you to scroll down and find the list for quality initiatives patient assessment. So if you are going to be talking about this in week 4 discussion, why don't you use that initiative for your paper as well? So, don't reinvent the wheel, because we're asking you to do it already in week 4. Now you can expand on it and write your paper on that. So if we were to go to this website and we're asking you to scroll all the way, let me increase this so you can see it better. So we're asking you to scroll all the way down, all the way down, all the way down. Right here, quality initiatives, patient assessment instruments. You've got all these quality initiatives that you can look at and see which one you're passionate about. Talk about it within your Module 4 Discussion 2. Get some peer feedback, get some instructor feedback, and then say, you know what, I'm just going to continue with this and write my paper about it. It doesn't make sense to really get involved in the discussion for the week and not use that information. Does that make sense to everybody? Any questions? Everybody's so quiet.
So Sheila, everything on that list right there is anything that we can write on in that paper?
You can. Yep.
Okay.
Yep, you can. So let's look at one example. You could use here's the OASIS, which we see a lot. Long-term hospice quality reporting program. Look at each of them and just find one that piques your interest, and know that you're going to dive into it in week 4, discussion 2, which then use that information and take it even further and write your paper about that.
We can start delving into it now as
Yes.
to where we can kind of find the one we want.
Yeah, you can. And that's what I would recommend, is because in order to write really good, you want to be passionate about it. So if you're just sitting here on Saturday and it's due Sunday and you're just like, well, I don't know, I just want to do the ASC quality reporting, and it really doesn't really interest you, it's going to be hard to write on that. I learned that in my master's program, and then even in my doctorate program, that it's so hard to pull stuff out of your brain when you're not passionate about something. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So of course, this is found at the bottom of that page that we give you within your module. So let's go back to it. So you're given this website within Module 4 Discussion 2. You click on it, you scroll down, and you find that list, and then look at it, spend some time. You're going to briefly introduce your colleagues and myself within your discussion, take it even further, and do your paper. Okay?
Is the paper due that same week? It
is at the end of that week. Okay, so knowing that you're going to start looking at this on Monday, start writing your paper Monday. And then that way you can write it, take a day off, come back, look at it, and see if you're like, what in the world was I talking about? I must have been really exhausted. And then you can refine it. Because that happens, you know?
Yeah.
Okay. So any questions about your Module 4 paper? Okay. So let's go back to modules because we're going to find our last assignment. So of course, here's week 4, here's week 5. We just have 2 discussion questions. Week 6, 2 discussion questions. Make sure that you do your survey when it comes open. Module 7. Oh man, I've got a report on quality improvement project, which is a PowerPoint. So let's look at this. So I'm going to pull it up. This is worth 225 points or 22.5% of my grade. And this is where I'm going to examine a quality improvement project or initiative at work or clinical or wherever you can get this information from. Okay. You're going to have to reach out and talk to some team members. Okay. So I would hope that you wouldn't start this on week 7, that you'd start to think, hey, I'm doing clinicals. They're implementing this new staffing initiative. Utilize that. Get all the information. If it's a work in progress, awesome. If it was just completed, awesome. Use all that information that you can get. Okay. Don't reinvent the wheel. Don't make it harder than it actually has to be. If your clinical area, if you can find initiatives that they've implemented, like hourly rounding or just something that they've started or even completed, go ahead and utilize that because that is realistic. Okay. So here we go. Let's look at our grading rubric. So let me minimize this again. And I'm going to bring an example up. Now here it looks like this because if I was to make it full screen, you wouldn't be able to see the grading rubric. So I hope that that's okay, how I'm doing this. So let's look at our first part. We need an introduction. So what I would look for, and you all know how to make a PowerPoint, okay? So here is this student used the Utah Air National Guard program. That's where they work. That's where they're involved. Awesome. Use it. Okay. So increasing effectiveness of medics initiative. Here's your title. Next would be introduction. Here's your introduction right here. But then down here are speaker notes. This, you're required to do speaker notes. And so with PowerPoints, you're not going to put every single word on a PowerPoint. It's just as if you were presenting at a conference. And so you're going to put minimal words on your PowerPoint so you have something to talk about. Because if you put all this up here on your slide, essentially you're just going to be reading the slides and people are going to be bored. It's going to be like, why am I here? Because you're reading what I can read. Does that make sense? Okay. So you're going to have speaker notes. So up here under your creating a PowerPoint, it talks about how to do speaker notes. Okay. Make sure that you have speaker notes. Okay. And so they just put a brief synopsis here and then they explain it down here. And that's what I read to get a full idea of what you're talking about. Okay. Next would be, let's do a little bit of background. So they've done some background, but then they've put some speaker notes here. Excuse me. And you can see within this student speaker notes is where they've done a reference, which is perfectly fine. This is where I would expect to see most of your references are within the speaker notes. Okay. What's next? Well, now I need to do some research and evidence. So here's your research and evidence right here. And here I would expect to see a lot of citations because it's research. So here is your research down here in your student notes, okay, or your speaker notes. Next would be methods, resources. Well, let's look. Wow, I've got methods, resources, performance targets right here with some speaker notes, okay. One thing within this area is we need to have you do a SWOT analysis. So you see where I don't see it here, but let's look at this. Oh, here's our SWOT analysis right here, okay, which talks about S for strengths, W for weakness, O for opportunities, and T for threats. So make sure that you write each of those out. Now, sometimes students will forget to do a SWOT analysis. Whoa, that's kind of tough if you don't have everything. And so you would be graded considerably down for that, okay? Next, we have results. So let's see. We have results right here. We've got speaker notes down here. And all of this speaks to all the requirements here. Then it looks like we have a conclusion. So we're going to summarize your project, provide personal experience with the project or initiative. How has nursing practice impacted? Discuss which of the 6 quality aims. So there's a lot within your conclusion. So make sure you hit on every single requirement. So let's look at the conclusion. So we've got, here's your IOM aim right here that I would be looking for. Okay, which of the 6 quality right here? Healthcare must be effective. Okay. Change, promoted growth, things like that. So make sure your conclusion, there's a lot required, but then make sure that you add your speaker notes, which this student has added very, very good notes. Okay. Format, it has to be 5 to 7 slides, which does not include title or reference. So it looks like this student's had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 slides, which is awesome. And then we look at the, the coloration, things like that, visually appealing, which usually is not a problem. Speaker notes right down here. So I would expect to have speaker notes. Okay. I would expect to see your citations, which, let's look over here. I know there's some citations down here, your research. Right down here, some citations. And they have to be in APA format. Okay. 80-20 rule, so we have to make sure that there's not a lot of quotations within your PowerPoint. And then again, your Grammarly, so your spelling of your words, sentence structure, things like that. Okay. Any questions about Module 7?
You said on the references, you want to see them in the speaker notes and not just at the end on a reference page?
Well, if you're referencing those within a slide, you have to cite just like you would be in a paper, but then you also, but then you also have a reference slide here.
Okay, that's what I thought. I got a little confused, so I was like, cite and then reference page.
Yep, so make sure you have citations and a reference page. Yep.
So you put them on both spots.
Pardon?
You put the references in both areas, the speaker notes as well as the reference page.
Well, you put your citations within your speaker notes.
Okay, got it.
Okay, so a citation is different than a reference. So let's look at your right here. So, oops. So here, Lieben and Mahoney, 2017, page 27. Of course, the page is there because it's quoted, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So this is completely up to you. Be creative. If something's going on at your place of work, go ahead and utilize that. If something was done a couple years ago, utilize that. I've had students ask me, well, hey, we're doing this at work, but it won't be completed by the time this paper's done. Perfectly okay. You just have to tell me that. But you have to make sure and answer, everything here. So what might be affected would be your results. So you could say, you should know what the plans are. Will the work continue to be modified? That should be part of the goals of the project. You know, if this proves to be ineffective, will we do it this way or whatever? You know what I mean? So it could be a work in progress. It doesn't need to be completed already, but you need to make sure and have enough information to meet all the criteria for your assignment. Okay. So remember, the biggest thing here is creating a PowerPoint presentation. It guides you through this, but make sure you have speaker notes. If you do not have speaker notes, you really will get marked down. Okay. Let me increase the size back to normal. And then let's go back to modules. I think we are... So there's 3 main assignments, due in weeks 2, weeks 4, and week 7. Okay. And then, of course, remember, week 8 is always a short week. This isn't anything new since you guys are almost at the end of your program. Okay. The other thing I want to touch on would be your scholarly references. And I think, I'm not sure if I added it to the announcement or if I just, I think I added it to discussion. So give me 1 second. I want to bring up, I don't know if it was this class or, nope, not that one. No one's posted in this one yet. So do you guys know when discussions are launched, you have this vague one right here, which is something that as faculty we can't change. But then when we do our launch, we are really specific. It talks about course learning objectives. It goes more into detail. You guys read those, correct? And that's what you work off of, or do you mainly work off this one?
Honestly, I've been a little bit confused because I'm like, which one should you follow? You know?
You should always follow your instructor one down here because it gives you a little more
detail.
Guidance. Yes, a little more guidance. Yep. Okay. So this here is just, yes.
I was just going to say, I'm actually confused about this week's discussion on this one.
Okay.
Because when I hit
on discussion 1.
Okay.
I've gone down and read your part, not the top part, which you just said. And I've hit the link, and it says, click on the link and read about how the patient protection has impacted healthcare. Well, when it pulls up on the link, it's just a bunch of numerous numbers. So I'm wondering if there's something else we're supposed to click. Is it? Yeah, that's what I see. Is there something else I'm supposed to click?
Yeah, you can look at Utah Health Reform Bulletin. So any of these that you can discuss.
Okay.
Oh, so we're going to choose any of those.
Yeah. So let's say
vague. I was having a hard time understanding that.
Some students
I'm with her. I was confused.
Yep. Sure. And this is awesome that we're.
And then if we reference that whatever we click on, is that going to be considered a scholarly resource for that discussion?
Yes.
Well, one thing that you can do is you can reference the health reform, how it affects you website. Don't reinvent the wheel. It's already there for you. Okay. So you're going to click in here. This is where you got it from, right?
Yeah.
This is a .gov, so you know it's scholarly. And then you reference the title. This is done by utah.gov. Let's look at the date. 2019 usually is when they're updated. Oh, right here, October 5th, 2018. Okay, so that's within the 5-year scholarly mark. So let's choose, tell me what you see that you want me to click on.
tobacco cessation?
Sure,
Requirements for tobacco
sure. So you're going to click on that, which is a PDF. So then it's a bulletin, so you can read it, you can summarize it. Okay. So let's go back and say, well, what do I need to talk about here? Read about it. Describe 2 changes in Utah state healthcare system as a result of smoking cessation. Well, let's see. This is all about.
I think that's where it got confusing because I was trying to find something that was the PC ACA. So I was like, what do I do?
That was what?
So this is making a lot more sense.
Oh, the PPACA.
It was supposed to be the. Yeah. So this is making a lot more sense now.
Yeah, because this is just Utah. Yes.
You want us to pick an area and then write about that and what that specific thing is.
Yeah. Changing
in the healthcare reform. Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. It didn't make sense at all.
Yeah. And so you've got, gosh, you've got a lot to choose from.
Yeah. It is a lot.
And so like that smoking
I think we were all just confused.
Sure. And it is a little confusing, So here, how many pages do we have? We just have 2 pages. So we're going to read it. We're going to summarize it. There you have it.
Yeah.
Okay. So of course, in this section, nobody's done that yet. So if I bring up another section,
I think
just because we weren't sure how to do it.
Yeah, I think that's why no one's posted yet because we were all like waiting for tonight to ask you.
Sure, and that's fine. Yeah, and we're at Tuesday, so you have plenty of time. So here, this student.
Yeah, and then
thank you, Brooke, for letting us use you. But she talks about Patient Protection Affordable Care Act. Let me look at this one. Hi, Brian. Here you are. Awesome. Okay. So he's referenced the site, which is exactly where you get it from, which is the site that I gave you. And he's talking about the Census Bureau, one of the main goals, Medicaid, and then he references it. So that's exactly what you need to do. So Brian, thank you for allowing us to utilize you as an example. Okay. Now, some things that I've written would be make sure that your references are scholarly. So if you have a reference in your launch, use it. There's no reason to reinvent the wheel. Okay. So what I've put in this one section is if your reference pertains to a blog or a newspaper, marketing, or social page, it's not scholarly. And how you'll know that is, let's say the word blog was somewhere within this web address. That is not scholarly. Okay? So make sure when you're utilizing web pages that you're utilizing the .gov, the .edu. Now, .com is not scholarly.
Right.
Okay? If at any time you say, gosh, I don't know if this is scholarly, text me, send it to me and say, hey, is this scholarly? And I can tell you right away if it is. Okay? Awesome. And it looks like, students are talking a little bit more now in this section. So I'm glad we were able to talk about that. Okay. So how are let's look at discussion 2 for this week and let's just see how we're doing.
And you said we could use the Ovid for discussion 2, right? Because Learn's being kind of weird.
Well, I sent an email out on how to get on the LIRN.
Yeah.
So that should guide you on the LIRN, but you can also use the Ovid, not a problem. What I want to shy away from is using web pages because that sometimes we get in trouble if we don't know if it's scholarly or not. Okay. So here we're supposed to explore online library related to nurses, healthcare reform. Let me see. Describe the role of nurses in healthcare reform. How can we make a difference? So then down here, I've expanded. And usually I highlight things that I want to draw your attention to. So here I'm asking you to utilize the LIRN or Ovid because this week it's being crazy. I will not accept web pages just because, those web pages, there are acceptable ones now. .gov is okay. But you really have to make sure that you're using a scholarly web page. Okay. So let's look. We've got down here, we've got a nursingworld.org. Awesome. Okay. Here is where I said you can use Ovid, but I also sent an email on detailing how to get into the LIRN, which it's a new year.
I believe Tiffany said it worked. She tried it.
Oh, good. Awesome. Okay. So at any time, let's go back to discussions. If at any time you see my launch, I would ask that you look at my launch, although this is pretty generic, but I go more in detail. And I can guide you a little bit more. I give more specifics. If at any time you read that and you're like, gosh, I don't know what you're asking, email me, text me and say, can you help me with this? Because you're not probably the only one that maybe has questions. Okay. So the whole thing is reach out to me. Let me know how you're doing. Let me know if you have questions. If something isn't working, I need to know about it so I can help you. Even though we're online and we're not face to face, I'm a phone call away. I'm a text away. If you want to make a private one-to-one phone call, let's set that up. You are my number one passion, and so I make time. I don't work out of the home. This is my full-time job, so I'm pretty much at your beck and call. Okay, so if you have a question, I would hope that you would reach out to me, give me the opportunity to help you with your success, and still wait until, sometimes students wait until week 7, week 8 and ask for extra credit. Things have come up. Well, let's work before that time. Okay. Let's help me help you be successful. Okay. Any other area of Canvas that you want to talk about regarding your assignments, regarding expectations, where you can find stuff? Anything? Any questions?
The only thing that I'm just a little bit nervous about are the things about the paper or the level 1 headings, because it's going to be kind of like my first time using those. So I'm just hoping that the video of APA will provide me some insight to making sure I do it appropriately,
Yeah. And use the template as well. So you can go here in your modules.
Right.
And download that template and use it. Okay. But this one right here. So level 1 headings are always centered, always bolded, with upper and lowercase letters. That's it.
That's it.
That's it. And so how you figure out, well, what would I be in a level 1 heading? You would look at your grading rubric and say, first part is my introduction. Well, there's my level 1 heading, introduction. Next part would be mission. Okay, there's my next level heading, mission. And then everything under that is talking about that level 1 heading. Okay. But if you have any questions, say, hey, what do you think of this? I mean, I'm not going to grade it. I'm not going to open myself up to grade it because then I would be so overwhelmed. But if you send me a paragraph and say, hey, I have a level 1 heading, plus I have like 2 citations. What do you think? and I can say your citations need maybe this improvement, or everything looks great. Keep doing what you're doing. Okay? But if you're going to do that, I have to have plenty of time to give it back to you too. So, it's tough when I get it on Saturday and it's due on Sunday.
Right.
I try to take,
No.
I try to take Saturdays completely off. I'm pretty present in my courses Sunday through Saturday or Sunday through Friday. Saturday I try to take completely off, but otherwise, I'm here for you.
Okay.
Utilize me. Let me know. There's never a reason why you shouldn't reach out and ask a question. There's never a reason that you should be thinking, well, I don't want to ask this question. I don't care. Ask me. So yeah, here's your APA stuff.
My last question is, I noticed in one of the papers that I believe it was the initiative paper that the student highlighted that portion.
I did that.
Oh, you did.
I did that just for a visual. So
we don't have to do that. Okay.
No. And sorry about that.
It's fine.
Yeah, this one right here.
Yes, yes.
And that was mainly for my eyes, so I could say, hey, this is the actual initiative that the student used. Yeah. So you wouldn't highlight it all.
Alrighty.
And so this would be your level 1 heading, but your title has to be there, but that's not a level 1 heading. Okay. But you see how it's centered, but it's not bolded because it's not a level 1 heading. Okay.
Okay.
So I can send these examples out. Give me till the end of the week, and you'll see them all in one email. So you'll get module 2, you'll get module 4, and then you'll get module 7 PowerPoint. Okay.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
And if your paper, let's say your title page looks exactly like this, then you're golden. Sometimes students capitalize the H. It is not capitalized. Sometimes students, like I said, add bold colors, add shapes, add whatever. No, it's just pretty plain Jane. Just like this. Okay?
Okay.
Any other questions? And it looks like we had quite a few join us. This is awesome, you guys.
I have a question.
Yeah. Who am I talking to?
Carmen.
Carmen, great.
So the example that you showed, it said running head, semicolon, then the title of your paper. Previous teachers have told me that when it says running head, that's not APA format. So that kind of confuses me because different teachers have their different idea of APA, I guess.
Well, I would just ask that, is this a nursing class or a general ed class?
It was a nursing class.
Because the running head is part of APA format. So I apologize if that's been happening, but APA format does have a running head. The other thing, let me bring back up. Where are we? There we are. Let me bring up your, where can we find it? Pages tab. I just want to show you something here. So if you go to your Pages tab, I want to show you your student handbook. And bear with me for 1 minute. Where'd the student handbook go? Oh, there it is. Look at that. Bear with me a minute. Let me see if I can find it. 1 second. It's what I'm looking for is, as faculty, we all got together with campus faculty and online faculty, and we made a list of what is expected for APA format. And so we are all supposed to be consistent. I know it's in here. And the running head is part of that. I wonder if it's in the faculty handbook, probably. Bear with me. I bet you it's in the faculty handbook because it guides us towards consistency. Yeah. And so just know that we pride ourselves in being consistent. And so if you ever have a question about, hey, I know that this teacher didn't expect this, do you expect that? Go ahead and clarify with each of your professors. Okay? And I apologize that that's going on, and that's something that we talk about in our ongoing meetings between faculty. But the biggest thing is consistency. So if you're being told one thing, but then you move on to another course and now you're having points taken off, that's not fair. And I apologize for that. Just know that I'm very good at APA, and I will help students be successful at APA, and I'm pretty up on it. So I'm sorry that that happened in one of your previous classes, but if you, I would guide you back to your modules, because right here is where your sample paper and template. So if we don't expect it, then why would it be on your sample page? Do you see what I mean right here?
Right.
So this is where you could also reference and say, well, it's here.
Right.
Right?
Okay.
So this is what, yeah, seriously. You know, I was a student once, and you know, you've got to have your evidence when you're going forward with a discussion. And so here's your evidence right here. So utilize that. Okay. So make sure that your title page looks like that and what have you. And then also, here's your template. Download it. Utilize it. It's in Word, so you can download it. Oops, it's just gonna, let's see. So go ahead and utilize this, but you're going to change it up. So you click on that, and you can change your running head to, I don't know, Health Care Quality Initiative. Did I spell it right? Okay. And there it is. Your page number's already there, so gosh, I don't have to worry about putting that thing in there. And now this, I'm a student. I'm just going to go ahead and put my name in there. This is for 300, so of course I'm going to change all this. And then I'm going to go down here and, oh, now I got to change this running head, which, okay, whatever. What did we put up here? Healthcare Quality Initiatives. So I just want to show you how easy it is.
You didn't know.
Okay. Oh, and look down here. It just copies back. Do you see where it's right here now? And then here is your first page. So this should be your title of your paper. And then, you know, whatever's here. This is a level 1 heading. And of course, you're going to change this to whatever. This is just an example. Okay. Level 1 heading. level 1 heading. It also helps you with referencing. So this is how your references should look. You've got quote, so of course I'm going to have a page number. But sometimes I don't have a quote, so right here, I just have an author and a date. Oh, but then I've got 2 authors here at the end of a sentence, so it should look like this. Do you see?
Mm-hmm.
This is just a great reference to use. Okay. Now, of course, I'm not going to save this just because it's a sample, but that's how easy it is to use the template that we offer. That way, you're utilizing a resource we offer, so we better not be marking you down on that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm hoping everybody else that listens to the presentation that isn't here will also understand that, the resources we give you, they're right here. Use them. Don't reinvent the wheel. It's here. I remember how hard it was for me in my master's program to really, and I didn't really dive deep into APA and get comfortable with it until my doctoral program, because you have to know it like it's your hand, you have no ifs, ands, or buts. But diving into it in my master's program, it's tough. It's just like a foreign language, but it gets easier. It gets better. So don't shy away from it. Dive into it and ask clarification questions along the way. But here's a great resource. Use it. Don't reinvent the wheel.
Okay.
Oh, I'm not going to save that. Okay. Questions? The other thing I can say to you would be, 1 second, give me 1 minute. I know we're at 21 after 7 on a Tuesday, Taco Tuesday, which you guys are probably starving. Let's go into the lecture. Knowing that we have discussion questions each week and knowing that we have a lecture each week, I'm going to look at this lecture and I'm like, well, I don't know what I'm going to talk about within my discussion. I don't know where I'm going to find my scholarly resources. Well, I'm going to guide you down here. Look at all these references. Do you think you could utilize one of these in your discussion? Yes.
Oh, yeah.
It's already done for you in APA. So let's say you're going to talk about this cdc.gov. You're going to find this and you're going to use that within your discussion because it pertains to it. I'm going to copy and I'm going to bring up a Word document. I'm going to bring up a new Word document. And I'm going to paste it. Well, now I've got to do all my darn stuff here because it needs to be double spaced and it needs to have a hanging indent, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness. Holy moly, Batman. Anyway, you know what I get, right?
Yes.
So it's done for you. Go ahead and utilize the resources that we give you at the bottom of your lectures to help you write your questions, to help support your discussion questions. They're all scholarly. They're all in APA format. Don't reinvent the wheel. They're all there. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So I know we're 23 after the hour. We have until 7:30. Let me know if you have any questions, if you want to discuss anything else. But now that we've talked about discussion question 1, make sure that you get in before 11:59 tomorrow to do your initial post. And also know that I get in every day and I try to give you support within your discussions. And so if I get into your post and I say, awesome job, blah, 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 but what do you think about this? If you reply to my question, that's a response. So there's a response done. There's one response done. I know I'm not a peer, but that's part of the peer response. So if you respond to me and one other peer, then you're golden. Okay. Okay. Questions, anybody? I'm so excited that you guys showed up. So at the end of our conference, then I download the link and then I upload it onto YouTube, and then I send you the link, and then you can watch this at absolutely any time you want, and it'll be readily available to you.
Thank you.
So by Friday, expect a email with this recording, link to the recording, and then look for 3 different attachments on examples for your assignments. Okay?
Okay.
Anything else that I promised that I didn't put on my list?
Thank you for answering all of the questions.
Awesome.
Yes,
awesome.
thank you.
Okay. And please tell your colleagues that weren't able to show up because they were working or whatever. Reach out to me. You know, there should be never go a week where you question and you're like, well, I don't know if I did it right. Well, how come you didn't know if you did it right? Ask me.
Right.
You know, I've been a student once. I love nurse education. Let me know how you're doing. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Awesome. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Have the rest of a good week, week 1, and good luck with your other classes.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.